Order.
Yes, order. I always have heels. I can always use those. Okay, let's call the meeting to order for Deschutes County Board of Commissioners. It's October 12th, 2022. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we will first have citizen input, and because I believe we had some students that wanted to testify on the park, and I know this is important to them, I was just going to allow them to do that today as an exception to the rule, just because they are students. And then we have a letter from a resident asking for a speed reduction on Woodside Ranch and additional signage. And I'm aware that that letter has been sent on to Chris Doty at our road department. So thank you, Barb, for that letter. And we did receive one email this last week regarding Worrell Park from Lisa Marie. So thank you for that letter. And we do have a little bit of time allocated. I believe Kate Kobolgard, if I've destroyed your last name, please repeat it, and you can give us your address. Thank you so much for coming, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Kate.
Hello. My name is Kate Kobolgard. I'm a senior at Bend Senior High School, and I'm here on behalf of the Green Leadership Coalition. Worrell Park is not a foreign topic to any of you city commissioners sitting in front of me. Resting on a 75,000-year-old lava flow and home to mammals, reptiles, and birds, the park's natural vegetation is a refuge for nature and people alike. The proposal to flatten the park by explosions and demolish this 25-year-old county park for 68 parking spots is a temporary solution. This is not the sustainable development you advertised when running for election. I am disappointed as I watch the representatives my county voted for dismiss rational thinking and not apply a price per spot comparison for other parking solutions. Being voting age and working on voter registration drives for high schoolers, I am helping students identify their values. I appreciate the attempt to compromise by proposing a plan to incorporate colorful flowers, grass lawns, and water features. All of these details are not natural to the area, though, and will require money, employees, and continual maintenance. On September 24th, we celebrated the park's 25th birthday, which one of you graciously attended. Standing outside your windows, community members gathered and shared memories of the park and how they contributed to this long project of preservation. After speaking with another activist high school student, an elderly woman on oxygen told me that she has been coming to Worrell for decades and that with the time she has left, she enjoys picnics and walks there weekly. Everyone there felt similar, and my heart was heavy listening to the hard work everyone has contributed as I thought of the potential demise of the space. It makes me emotional to be here. This is not in line with the culture of our city. Destroying one park at a time is a tragic direction to follow. Please help save Worrell for the history it hosts and the community members it serves. We ask that you take the Worrell Park option off the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, and thank you for coming that day. And then I believe we have Karen Polavo.
Good morning, and thank you, County Commissioners, for your time. My name is Karen Pelayo, and I'm a senior at Mountain View High School. I lead the Conservation Club at my school and the Green Leadership Coalition, which is a group of high school students from all over Bend who work together to try to improve the environment around us. I'm here today to talk about Worrell Park, a park that has been established for 25 years. Worrell is home to many native plants, wildlife species, and memories. It has been around for plenty of time for our community to grow and for more people to love it. But as our community actively continues to grow, it faces possible consequences of losing irreplaceable characteristics. Being born and raised in Bend, I've grown up with nature all around me. It's been a beautiful place my family and I have had the privilege to enjoy. I've also seen our city continue to expand. I've seen construction left and right to accommodate living spaces for those who move to enjoy the beauty of the wilderness all around us. One of Bend's most prominent features is our green spaces. I have childhood memories of swimming in the lakes and rivers, going on hikes, and playing and running in the parks with family and friends. I hope these activities can continue to be experienced by kids, families, and community members in the future. But as representatives continue to prioritize paving over our natural environment to accommodate plans for society to fit our aesthetic, budget, and convenience, we minimize opportunity for future generations to live in the world we get to enjoy today. It's time to prioritize maintaining the green spaces we have. With the need to expand the courthouse, I know parking is a difficult decision, especially downtown. Worrell is the cheapest option, but that is simply because it will only result in 68 parking spaces. We're comparing apples to oranges. 68 to 500 is a drastic change. It's a temporary solution that consequently will force the community to lose Worrell forever. This decision overlooks how priceless a natural habitat is. Parks like Worrell hold such value, especially in a downtown urban area. I myself also work downtown and have to think about the limited parking options whenever I come into work, just like many others. The alternative option of building a structure will not only provide relief to those who need access to the courthouse, but it will also allow civilians to come to work and enjoy downtown and all it has to offer more conveniently. It's an investment for our community and a much more sustainable solution. I started a petition on behalf of the Green Leadership Coalition. Once made known, 348 people gave us their signatures and donated $125 in support of preserving Worrell. People also left behind comments on what Worrell means to them, and the memories and joy the community gets out of this park. There is much to consider. What we ask is that you take the Worrell option off the table. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Karen, thanks for representing all of you, and thank you for working, too. It's appreciated.
Just like to I'd just like to make sure it's clear what the process is for considering modifications to Worrell Park at this point. We are waiting for a parking analysis. That parking analysis will tell us whether we need to build any additional parking on our downtown campus or not. That decision has not been made yet. I would be delighted if we did not have to spend $2.5 to $8 million to $25 million for additional parking in the downtown campus. That's part of the reason why I rode my bike to work this morning. But we have not received that parking analysis yet, and there has not been any decision made yet. So I just want everyone to be very clear that this is a decision process that is in its very early stages. I feel like there has been a lot of misinformation spread about this project, and I'm pretty disappointed that a perception has been given to people that this decision has already been made, that the park will be completely eliminated, which is not true, under any scenario moving forward. I would much prefer to discuss this with people who are informed about what the actual decision process is and what the proposals at hand are. I will say that people have seen a very rough early conceptual design for a modified Worrell Park, and that is not what I believe that we will be doing if the parking analysis says that we do need additional parking. I would propose that this park, if we need additional parking, would be modified so that a whole bunch of, thousands of tons of construction debris from construction of the parkway is removed from the top of the existing natural lava outcrop that's underneath there, and that we would revegetate it with native vegetation, and it would, capture a piece of high desert landscape that I think is similar to, if not better than, what we have right now. But beyond that, I also wanted to lay out what I think the pathway would be to decide, for the community to decide, what they want to do about this park and future parking needs in the downtown campus. And my proposal would be that we put the question directly to the voters. We're talking the cheapest of the parking structure options costs probably 3 times more than a Worrell Park redesign, and 3 times more is something in the range of $6 million. It's quite a lot of money, and it's money that the county actually basically doesn't have. If you track, for anyone who tracked our budget deliberations from last May. So we would need to borrow the money to do a parking structure, and I believe that that is a question that should be asked directly to the voters. That should not be left to 3 commissioners to decide. That is the more democratic way to approach this issue. So we could do that through what's called a general obligation bond measure. So if the parking analysis says that we need to do, we need to build additional parking in downtown, and people don't like the Worrell Park redesign that we will, come up with after that choice is made, then we could put the choice to the voters directly, rather than asking the 3 commissioners to make that decision, because I think that's above my pay grade. I don't think that's an appropriate choice for me to make, to spend $6 million more on a parking structure. So thank you for your concern and your passion for natural places in our community and parks, and I share that. But I just wanted to clarify some things about the process and what's actually being proposed, and how we could allow the people to make this decision rather than the 3 commissioners here. Thanks.
So one comment, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. I mean, this is the public engagement process. You're seniors at the high school. Now you've testified in front of the Board of Commissioners, and this is the introduction to the public process. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to work through this. When we made a choice of the lower cost of 2 options and the vision of redevelopment, it was very much a high-level architectural opportunity that we're just looking at. And now we've got a lot of engagement, and we'll work through this together. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay, we have a consent agenda in front of us. Is there a motion?
I move
Oh,
approval of
wait,
it.
do we have anybody else on Zoom? Sorry. Stephanie, no one else on Zoom. Thank you so much. Okay. Did you move, Commissioner
I
Chang?
move approval of the consent agenda.
And I will second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Mr. DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, item number 6, the rescue plan funding. Dan, thank you very much.
It's still warm even.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dan Emerson, Budget Manager.
Laura Skundrick, Management Analyst.
And today we're going to go over the American Rescue Plan Act and the remaining funds that we have, discuss some specific items for discussion, and review any other ARPA funding requests or questions that you, the Commissioners, might have. The ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, we received approximately $38.4 million of federal funding. We've expended about $37.75 million of that and have a balance of $640,000 roughly remaining. So we have a couple items that we'd like to go over today, unless there's any questions or comments prior to that.
If we analyze the parking needs, if we were to redevelop or build a parking structure, could we use these funds for that? Do you know that offhand?
The ARPA funds, we would have to look into that. My guess is probably, I would tend to say probably not, because it usually has to be a direct impact of COVID of somehow, and the capital on the state and local fiscal recovery funds for ARPA that we have is a little bit tighter requirements, but quite possibly also coming from the ARPA funds are the local assistance, tribes, consistency funds, we're going to be receiving about 4.6 million of those. And as you know, that's kind of general revenue. We've had this discussion, and those funds would be able to be used for anything except for
So
lobbying.
not for this pot specifically, but we have other dollars.
Most likely not for this pot.
There's only $235,000 of ARPA funding left unallocated at this point anyway. That's not going to go very far on parking structures.
I thought you just said the balance was 640,000.
Correct. The balance at this point in time is around 640,000, not including reserves and contingencies that we've set up for fiscal year 24 and other projects.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the grand totals at the bottom. Oh,
It's
sorry,
actually
those are outstanding
38,400.
requests. Sorry, those are outstanding requests versus board approved. That's something different.
Okay. Go ahead, Dan and Laura.
Yeah, so the first proposal we wanted to talk about, or that we have on the agenda to speak about, is a proposal from our IT department. This is for internet resiliency. It's really going to kind of speed up our connectivity as well as some security. They're going to be essentially purchasing routers and some firewall equipment, like I said, to improve the speed of and connectivity of our internet, as well as to provide additional security in this day and age. The reason we're bringing this to you is because it is eligible under broadband infrastructure. If we did reach out to our IT department, and this is something that the county kind of has to do. So if we don't fund it out of ARPA, we'll just be funding it through internal service funds, most likely during this year's budget process. So we wanted to bring it to you for deliberation and consideration.
Was that October 18, 2021? Was that the one that was from Tacoma, that was a spliced cable and that was up for, 10 hours? Do you know, on the calendar of issues that we're looking at?
I do not recall that one.
Remember, it was like way up in Washington State, and it caused a
Right.
major problem here. Does
All the way
anyone else
down here. Yeah, I remember.
Do you remember, Nick, when that happened? Okay, all right. Well, yesterday, listening to cybersecurity and the fact of what is happening in our economy, more things may be happening in this industry that we as a county really have to stay on top of. You know, you think of Tillamook County and the problems they had when they were hacked into. It created serious, serious problems for them. So, new firewalls, it sounded like what I was listening to yesterday morning.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm supportive of proceeding with this. This is going to be a good investment, infrastructure and technology upgrades for Deschutes County. And, good analysis and preparation for this, so we've got the backup for it. So I'm supportive.
Yeah, I guess I want to see that project go forward, but I don't necessarily feel that the ARPA funds are the appropriate way to pay for it. I believe that these dollars were provided to the county to help us respond to and recover from the COVID pandemic. And I'm just not really seeing a connection.
And so, the conversation, the project, according to IT, is going to have to go forward. So exactly, it's just a conversation of where do you want to fund it out of at this point in time.
Well, what did we just hear, that Social Security is going to go up almost 9%. I think we've created a massive amount of inflation in our country. And do we want to spend more dollars, or do we want to spend these dollars out of ARPA? Because every dollar that is spent that we've created is creating more inflation. And I don't have a problem with spending this $94,000 within the ARPA funding.
Okay.
So, for clarity, I'll move approval of our internet resiliency investment of $94,080.78 for IT upgrades.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? Mr. DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
No on spending ARPA dollars on this project.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. Okay, next item.
Next item is Sleep in Heavenly Peace. They are asking for $5,000 to help create, they build beds for children that don't have them, and they are asking for $5,000 for more materials to be able to build those beds out of ARPA, and we have deemed them as eligible at this point in time.
Yeah, there are children in our community that don't have beds, and they make these beds the most reasonably way possible. I was actually at the day when they were building them from pieces of wood, sanding the wood, staining the wood, putting them together, and the community all was there. There were 75 volunteers from Home Depot there, and other members of the community too were helping put them together. So it's a lovely project, and I feel that $5,000 is will be well spent by that program.
I'm open to supporting this project. I have some questions about the mechanics of the funding. This is a pretty small request, and I don't have a good sense of the administrative burden of moving $5,000 of ARPA funding towards a request like this versus the administrative complexity of say, putting a few $1,000s from lottery funds through our discretionary grant program into a request like this. So is there, generally my impression is that federal funds are much more cumbersome. So if it would take us a substantial amount of staff time to administer a very small $5,000 grant, I would prefer to look at this through our discretionary grant cycle instead.
Mm-hmm. I can speak to the ARPA piece. I mean, I think because they're not greater than 50,000 on our end, there's some automated processes that we have set up, but there wouldn't be what we would consider to be a large subaward or a large subrecipient where we would need to do a lot of internal staff time. However, being federal funds, they would have to do more reporting to us, even for the 5,000 quarterly reporting and sending invoices of that nature, being federal funds. And I can let Laura speak to kind of the video lottery if that would be an easier process.
Yeah, having done actually the back end of both of these now, it's easy for me to speak to, and I don't believe either one would be more substantial administrative time. Pretty comparable for that size of funding.
Okay, so on our end, the administrative burden is about the same, but possibly on their end, their reporting requirements are much more substantial for ARPA funds?
Given their proposal for this specific project, it seems like it would, the backup paperwork that they would have to provide would likely be pretty easily available to them to just send over all at once, and not kind of like an ongoing process for 2 years,
Right.
Like some of our other projects. And so I think it would potentially be a small lift for them as well. And then if we had done it through the discretionary grant process, they would still have to send us a report, just wouldn't have to provide all that backup paperwork. But again, for this one, I don't think that would be a huge deal for them.
So I moved the 5,000 for Sleep in Heavenly Peace. I know that they'd asked for this quite a while ago. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Commissioner Chang,
Yes?
Commissioner DeBonne,
No.
and the chair votes yes.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a great effort, and I want to, their mission is wonderful. I just don't see public dollars as a requirement for efforts like this.
Well, they do help Bethlehem Inn, Saving Grace. They respond to the ask of the community. So is there anything else in here that we need to look at today?
It's really up to the commissioners. If you have any proposal that you'd like to bring up or additional questions regarding ARPA, we're available for that.
And the chair does vote yes, so
Okay.
that passed also.
So I can just the timing on this is good. I can bring up the Heart of Oregon Core Campus campaign. So this is for discussion, if we're not ready to act on it or not today. But I know that there was I think it was a $100,000 ask for ARPA, and it was recently, the confirmation came back that it was approvable. So just acknowledging, I was able to attend the Heart of Oregon Core Campus campaign open house, and this is on the Opportunity Foundation property and right off of 126 in Redmond. The delight of the opportunity is there's multiple existing buildings. There's some big industrial history there. Used to be sheltered workshops, and now people that in the Opportunity Foundation are managing, careers in the field. So there's existing buildings there, and we were there yesterday morning, learning about this. There's a great vision for redevelopment of the corner of the property, a long-term lease to Heart of Oregon Core from the Opportunity Foundation, which is already a nonprofit, so their missions align very well. So I'm excited about the investment, and as I say, for my fellow commissioners today, it's just if we're ready to proceed or not. But I'll be supportive of that $100,000 ask in the future if we don't do it today. So they're going to be doing a lot of outreach and efforts, for about a year, putting a big multi-million-dollar project together. But as we know, the Conservation Corps and the state dollars for fuel reduction and the existing partnerships with federal summertime crews. There's a lot of great history with Heart of Oregon Corps here at Deschutes County.
It's a wonderful operation, and do not Google the address because you will end up on the wrong side of 97. The last time I went to their event, I was over there with Curtis, the superintendent of sister schools. We were both driving around, like going, where are we supposed to be?
I just happened to know right where to go yesterday morning. So
I know.
was there.
Well, I know now. So anyway, no, they're. Would it be okay if we brought that back?
Well, yeah, either way.
I'd be supportive of moving it forward today.
Okay, good.
So as I say, I think you guys have heard about that because you must have kind of confirmed that it's an appropriate expense. So, and it was $100,000, correct? So, yeah, I don't know if there's any other discussion.
I'll move
There you go.
approval of $100,000 for investment in the Heart of Oregon Corps campus.
And I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion?
I guess I would just also say that in investing in Heart of Oregon Corps is, in my mind, a workforce investment for our community, and this facility will greatly improve and advance the Heart of Oregon Corps' ability to give a professional career track or a workforce track to a lot of young people in our community who otherwise might be struggling to find that. So I think it's a great project.
Okay, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you so much.
There we go.
And if there's no other questions, then I would just say, let the board know that we have, as you know, given about $2.4 million to health services related to COVID and contact tracing. And just as an FYI, they are down to, I believe, the last 30,000 or less of those dollars. So they may be working with Laura to come back to the board here. I have not had a lot of conversations about what they may be wanting for in terms of an extension of those funds, so I don't know those plans, but it's quite possible that since they're at the bottom, they'd be coming back. They do have approximately $1.7 million in contingency in the health section here of ARPA at this point.
So what's the balance of their contingency?
It's approximately 1.7 million, 1.74 million. They also have a COVID unit team reserve of 540,000 on top of that. So
Okay,
there are some funds
all
there.
right.
So just acknowledging, so Ronald McDonald House Charities had asked for other dollars, another $100,000. And I would, if my fellow commissioners are supportive, understanding that they're in the middle of a project and if dollars are needed to get it done, getting a project done right now is very valuable. So as I say, I'm not here to move approval today, but I'm just acknowledging that I would still be an advocate, knowing that, as I say, they're doing a big project and helping them get it done may be the key to that. So next time around, I'll bring that back with more preparation if that's their status. So just acknowledging.
Actually, I want to mention High Desert Chocolates. They were at the event Saturday night, and you all know how much I love chocolate. They're a new business in Sisters, and they did the whole dessert display, and it was unbelievable. So, yeah, I know they raised a lot of money. There was, it was really a lovely gala. Thank you to their leader, Penny, here. So, yeah, we need to have those, what they really need to raise.
Yeah, so as I say, my motivation would be helping them close it instead of, being really close. If that's the status. So I'll do some homework on that.
Great, thank you.
If we're bringing up prior or earlier proposals that we deferred and postponed on the last couple of days, waking up in the morning and noticing how cold the air was, I took a couple minutes to check in with the Sisters Winter Warming Shelter folks to see what their status was for this coming winter. At this moment, they only have 1 month of the winter covered because, as we learned last year, it's very challenging to find space in the city of Sisters for that operation. Since the cast of characters at the city has shifted around a little bit, and some of the really divisive dynamics may be behind us at this point, I would like to ask us to consider again some kind of investment in future winter warming shelter space in the city of Sisters.
I would really like them to come and make a presentation to
Yeah,
us.
so we'll do our homework on that.
Yeah, they need to come and do a presentation, what they're thinking about.
Yeah, they didn't ask us. I inquired with them what their status was, and they didn't come and ask us because of the runaround that they got the last time. So, if we are serious about hearing a proposal, then we could invite them to do so. And
That's what we just said. We did say that. The Sister City Council had given us a different message, so it would be great for them to come in here. If you could set that up for us, Dan and Laura. Sure. Thank you. It is getting colder, noticing the temperatures are dropping. It was 32 this morning in Sisters. So, thank you.
Chair, if I can just make a
Uh-huh.
suggestion, the matrix is helpful, particularly with the balance at the top, and of course that'll be reduced by this morning's decisions. It might also be helpful, just given the limited funds that we have available, based on, I think it was Chair Adair's question about the amount of money in reserves or contingencies. Maybe we just put that at the top as well. So
Right.
going forward, so the commissioners have a very clear understanding of how much money is available and how much is unspent. And then we could, I just outline if it's in contingency for or reserve for COVID or health services, just whatever it is, so it's right up front, so the commissioners have a good sense of what the balances are going forward.
Sure, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, next item, number 7, our upcoming open house. Are we doing time? Oh, we are. We're almost on time.
Almost.
Thank you, Nicole.
Morning, Commissioners. Nice to see you all today. So for the record, Nicole Mardell, I'm a senior planner with Deschutes County's Long Range Planning Division. So today we wanted to provide just a brief update on our comprehensive plan process and advertise some open houses, make you aware of them. So let's see here. So just to start, for those who may be listening, just for some grounding, the comprehensive plan is the county's policy document for guiding growth and development in the rural county, so everything outside of city limits, over a 20-year time span. So it's the roadmap for land use regulations, demonstrates our consistency with statewide regulations, and provides a cohesive vision for future growth. So this is our project graphic here that kind of shows what comes into a comprehensive plan and eventually what comes out. So we initiated this project in May of this year. The initial phase was mostly just project initiation, so reviewing background documents, establishing our community engagement plan, et cetera. And now we've shifted into phase 2, which is the start of our community engagement process. So I wanted to give you just an outline of specifically what we've completed in phase 1 and then what we're initiating in phase 2 and then those community engagement opportunities. So in phase 1, we've held our kickoff meeting with our consultant, identified our goals, challenges, priorities for this process. We've established our project schedules, put together all of our background materials, reviewed them as staff, shared them with the consultant. Those are used in establishing our existing conditions and trends. We've put together our community engagement plan, including some metrics for targeted outreach to certain populations. And we've held a community engagement training with our staff to lead outreach events, in particular our Meeting in a Box events. And that training was put on by our project consultant with several folks who have, over 25 years of experience leading these events. So those were very valuable for our staff. We also did a launch of our project website. This is using a new format to the county. It's called Esri Hub. So the website itself is more customizable. The goal is to make it more user-friendly and visually interesting. So I encourage commissioners to check out the website if you haven't already. It's deschutes.org/2040. In phase 2, as I mentioned, this is more getting into community engagement. So we've held a couple initial engagement activities. You can see in the photo here, we held a pop-up at the Deschutes County Fair. That was great in reaching folks who maybe aren't aware of what the county does in terms of planning. So really good of just raising awareness of planning generally, but also getting some feedback on topic areas that interest fairgoers, county residents. We've also established some of our materials for the Meeting in a Box. Those are meetings that we bring out to the community to certain groups. We've completed initial draft of our background summaries that cover existing conditions, future trends for things like housing, economic development, natural resources. Staff has also completed review of our existing policies in the comprehensive plan to identify policies that either have gaps in them, where things aren't covered that need to be addressed immediately, or otherwise things that are maybe outdated. Eventually we'll move on to creating new policy, but that's kind of essentially where we start of just taking a look of what we have, what we want to keep, what needs to change. We've also established our Planning Commission framework, so they are serving as the advisory body for this project, so establishing their role, how they make decisions, and how we'll engage them during their meetings over the next 2 years. So the main point of why I'm here is to advertise these upcoming community engagement events. So we're holding these signature open house events where our goal is to get at least about 100 attendees at each of these. So we're holding 4 throughout the county, starting on October 19th to the 25th. So Bend, Sisters, Sun River, and Redmond. During these open houses, we'll have essentially a come as you want format. So there's no formal presentation, there's no specific timeline. You can come in when you have time, meet with staff, read some posters about those existing conditions going on in the county, and then we'll split up into breakout groups where folks can discuss with each other as community members key issues, challenges, and opportunities facing the county. And the goal is to make this a pretty casual, approachable event. So we have some Eventbrite pages set up for these events in hopes that we can raise awareness. We've advertised them through press releases, social media, our website, contact lists, advertised them during our Meeting in a Box meetings that we've held already. So please feel free to spread this to your networks as well. And we would love, of course, for the commissioners to attend one of these meetings or several if you have time. In addition to this, for folks who would prefer to participate virtually, we also have an online survey, so that will open on the 19th, the same day as the first open house, and will be open for a few weeks. We're trying to use more, again, approachable kind of format to these open houses, so we'll incorporate things like video, starring Nick Lilac, for instance. And
And
we'll,
hopefully the room won't be 100 degrees like it was in Tumalo. Were you there that night? It was
was.
so hot.
exactly,
And
that
I
was
said,
the-
could we like move them? And thank you for moving some of them earlier because I know how hard our staff works. And I think it's great that some of these are starting at 4 to 6 or 4 to 6:30. I think that's respective of your time and hopefully the community can get there.
absolutely.
So, yeah, we want cooler rooms though.
We do, yeah, I totally agree. That was one of the first questions we asked is being mindful about the spaces that we're using. Are they going to be comfortable? Are they soundproof? That kind of thing. But really appreciate your feedback from the Tumalo Community Plan Open House. We integrated that pretty much immediately into our strategy for these open houses. So we always welcome feedback of how we can improve these. Other than the online survey, we are also holding, as I've referred to a few times, these meeting in a box meetings. So our intention is to go out to community groups when they're already meeting so that we're going to them, they don't have to come to us. So we've already identified about 90 groups. These include, our city partners, intergovernmental partners, nonprofits, government agencies, county departments, et cetera. When we conduct these meetings, we always ask the question at the end, who else should we meet with? So we're always adding to that list as we hear more information. And we've also advertised on our website that groups can also request one of these meeting in a boxes. So if, let's say someone had a book club and they just wanted to learn more about planning, we're definitely willing to take this activity out to them and engage. So there's also, I should mention, we have a couple other ways to get involved. So we have an interested parties list using Constant Contact. We're aiming to send quarterly newsletters so folks can keep up to date on what's going on with the project. We're also utilizing social media to promote our meetings and our events. We have comment forms on our websites for folks who, just want to send kind of a long form comment to us to consider. And we're also updating our website pretty routinely. So we're always trying to add things, add new graphics or visuals, so folks have a reason to come back to our website after their initial visit. So with that, that's all I have for you today, but I welcome any questions from commissioners.
Just an observation, I know this is going to be valuable for the community members to really get some brain space around this. This is a comprehensive plan. It's a horizon document. Some code changes could come out of this. What's the vision for our rural development? It's Deschutes County proper, outside of the cities. We've got a lot of rural residential properties. Before land use even. I'm thinking of southern Deschutes County 1-acre lots all over the place. Accessory dwelling units are on the horizon. Road maintenance issues, just the traffic infrastructure. The intersection of water. So we end up in an application process for somebody's private property development, and water has been a real hot topic. Just having people understand the big picture and what's a domestic well or agricultural water. So education, I guess, is my message of my statements right now, wanting people to get involved.
My only question is, I looked on our social media for information about the open houses that I could share, and I didn't see it yet. So I'm curious whether it's going to show up on the Deschutes County profile or whether it's going to be somewhere else.
Yes, so it should show up on our Deschutes County Instagram page today and Facebook and Nextdoor. So we've been working with Eric Breon with our communications department, our digital content coordinator, I believe. So he's shared some great feedback of when to post things so that you can get essentially in people's mind space so that they don't forget about the event. So all that information will go out essentially today, a week before the events start. Thank you for asking. Great point.
Yeah, and I agree that you can't put stuff out too early, but when you put stuff out earlier, then people can share it around and they can kind of hear about it 2 or 3 times, and I think people are more likely to come to stuff if they've heard about it a number of times than just once. So just, I don't know whether we could put it out 3 weeks in advance and then put it out 1 week in advance, and
Certainly, that's a great idea.
as when, Commissioner DeBone listed a number of aspects of development that are going to be of real interest to people in coming decades in this community, and it would be great to have people engaged in providing their input now on this comp plan that's going to have such profound effects on the way that the county grows.
Absolutely.
And thank you for incorporating those ideas. I think that's helpful.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate that.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, commissioners. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you this evening for your joint meeting with the City of Lapine as well. We're going to give this brief update to them so they're aware of it.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you very much.
Thanks, Nicole. Thank you again for coming back to Deschutes County. We are so glad you're here. Okay, Will, it's your turn.
Good morning, Commissioners. Your Planning Manager, Will Groves, here with an update on our work plan. We're also glad that Nicole's here.
Yeah.
Of
Can't
course,
say it enough.
yes. The adopted Community Development Work Plan contains several discretionary long-range planning projects in varied complexity and anticipated staff effort. And so this agenda item is intended to update the board on upcoming work plan projects and to solicit any comments or revisions you might have. This is to ensure that long-range staff, which has emerging capacity, implements the board's priorities with our available resources. In August, we'd come to you to talk about some limitations we were having with staff. We were seeing a surge in current planning reviews, and we were allocating some of our long-range staff to meeting those demands. And as anticipated, things generally slow down in the winter a little bit. We're also seeing some general economic slowdown, and we're able to return our long-range staff to those tasks that they normally are assigned to. And specifically, we're in a position to begin initiating a variety of projects that we had discussed with you previously. The memo, of course, has a full summary of the projects that are out there, where they are, their status. What I'd like to focus on today is 4 projects that we would, with your direction and input, would begin relatively immediately. These are, and they're based on prior direction that you've given us. These are the amateur radio tower updates. So these are ham radio tower updates, relatively minor updates, but we had heard from interested members of the community that our code had gotten out of sync with both building code regulation and FAA FCC regulation, and there's an interested community of ham radio operators who'd like to see this process streamlined. Second,
I'll just acknowledge, I think it was a letter from FAA confirming, but then there's no requirements of the FAA to acknowledge. So it was a catch-22 that they ended up in. So it could be a pretty simple fix.
I think it's pretty straightforward. We have, interested stakeholders. I think that we don't, at least to date, we don't have any opposition to these types of changes. So I think it's a pretty straightforward amendment that causes, I think, some things that were intended to plug in aren't plugging in, and we can fix that in the code pretty easily. Second one is one of our regular activities, which are housekeeping amendments, and these are things that don't require significant policy choices. So they're typically mandated by state statute and rule. Scrivener's errors are simple fixes to maintain code consistency. So we would bring forward a package of housekeeping amendments that include state mandated updates to uses in agricultural buildings. These are thou shalts from the states that we're simply our code has gotten out of sync with. There's some temporary housing options that are available following declared wildfire emergencies, as well as some changes to improve definition consistency in the code. There's some definitions that are used in different ways in different parts of the code, and we're looking to clean some of that up. There's certainly a huge, there's a significant backlog of these types of amendments, and so we're trying to bring them to you in the order of relative importance and benefit to the community to get them cleaned up. Every year the state updates statute and rule, and it's one of our obligations to keep those in sync wherever possible. And so this is another package of those that tend to be relatively easy. As you've experienced previously, if any of these prove to be controversial or require significant policy changes, with board direction, we've taken them out of the housekeeping lane and brought them back for planning commission review, deeper review, public discussion. But the anticipation that these are all pretty straightforward. Another one that you'd expressed interest in was the outdoor lighting control and dark skies best practices. And this is to the extent that we see you continued interest in our pursuing that. We would put a draft work plan together and a timeline, and we'd return to the board with some discussion of that. A stakeholder committee would likely be to our benefit to talk about what that ordinance might look like. suggested revisions. I want to note that in previous discussions, lots of interest from the board in educational opportunities associated with that, and teaming with existing dark sky advocates. So we would come, assuming that you were continued to be interested in that, we'd come back to you with additional information about how we plan to engage and get some feedback on that.
And it's amazing seeing, usually a person wouldn't put in a really high wattage bulb, back in the day before LED, I guess what I'm referring to. So you wouldn't put a 100 or 200 watt floodlight out because it was a big hot light bulb. Now you can get a really bright LED and just leave it on all the time. So just simple shading or fixtures. So there's full on education opportunities, and we'll see where it all goes.
Yeah, it's amazing in our initial research in this, the amount of this goal that you can achieve just by, I heard one jurisdiction call, put a hat on it.
Mm-hmm.
That you can, the light can be out there,
Down.
you can receive the benefits of it, just, ensure that it's cast at the area that you're trying to control the light for. Fourth potential project, we heard on your meeting at September 26th, Commissioner Chang and Commissioner DeBone both showed an interest in short-term rental regulation in the county. This is something that we had approached previously, and a previous commission had determined that we wouldn't take regulatory action in that regard, but it sounds like there's some renewed interest in that. And so with your direction today, and we're really open to hearing where you are with this, we could take a variety of approaches. One suggestion would be that if this is a priority among these that you'd like to see us move forward on relatively quickly, we could come forward with some research and summarize how other jurisdictions in the area approach this issue, and see if there's some interest in taking a regulatory program preliminarily before the Planning Commission and discussing with you what that might look like. If this is a relatively lower priority, we could put this out for our 2023-2024 work plan and bring it back to you as a package of other potential items that you might be interested in. Really today interested to see if this is something that you'd like to see advanced effectively to the front of the line to get some initial information about it, or if it's something you just want to make sure is queued. And so those are really the important topics I wanted to bring to you today. So wanted to check with those first three projects that those are still priorities for you and that nothing needs to be bumped up or modified. And secondarily, that short-term rental program, if you'd be interested in hearing a kind of a presentation of how other local and regional jurisdictions deal with that and seeing if there's interest in exploring that in Deschutes County.
I guess I'd like to say that I don't know if it has to be the front of the line, but I do think that that this is an appropriate time for us to take a look at short-term rentals and to think about the impacts that they have. They may or may not have on surrounding landowners and also on the housing supply in our region. We can see, you need look no farther than Clatsop County to see how this issue, if not proactively addressed, can blow up and consume a tremendous amount of land use planning, electoral politics, energy in a community. So I'd like us to get ahead of that before we have those kinds of issues in the community here. And so
Looking at our room tax revenue today, year to date, actually July was 8.3% of what last year, and then it went up to 11%, and then year to date now it's gone down to 7.2%. So the room tax revenue does look like it's trending down. Maybe that's normal. Well, it's, you would have thought it would at least stayed at the 11% the prior month, but it is trending down. And I am hearing about residences that have been purchased by out-of-state for a lot of money, and then they're using them for rentals, and there's new guests in those rentals every night. So they have no respect for the rest of the neighborhood. So that's the other side of the story. When you talk about having regulations, would you say that it needs to be like a 3-night stay or something? It just seems like there's things happening out there that some members of our community are concerned with, and yet it is our room tax revenue. So there's that balance. And if they've invested in the property, yes, it's definitely a balance.
I don't think regulations would necessarily address things like how long people stay. I think they would address things like, you know, noise levels, times of night when you can be causing disruptions in the neighborhood, things like that.
Yeah, those would be typical. Another big topic that comes up in jurisdictions is occupancy. You know, right now we have our occupancy. There's a LUBA case that came back that said if jurisdictions don't choose to regulate short-term rentals differently than long-term rentals, then the same regulations apply. You can't arbitrarily impose restrictions on them. And so right now, under a definition of family, you know, we're basically saying that people are living together as a family for one night, and that's any number of relatives plus 3 additional people, or 5 unrelated people. And, you know, that the number of people in a structure can, you know, start to challenge both, you know, building code occupancy concerns as well as septic. Many jurisdictions have moved to, for short-term rentals, saying occupancy is 2 per bedroom plus a bonus 1 for the residents. That's a little bit easier. It doesn't involve code enforcement trying to figure out how everyone's related on a nightly basis to ensure that occupancy is being met. So I think occupancy is a big target. Overall density can be a big target, that you see jurisdictions, you know, hey, we want to allow a certain number of these because, you know, they can compete with long-term renting options. Certainly, you know, I know people who have gone to a nightly rental model and it vastly exceeds the income that they could get from a monthly rental.
That's why we're seeing so much of it, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's, but you know, at the same time, it's a tremendous economic opportunity, both for the owners of those properties and, you know, the community. It's a type of lodging that people are seeking out. So obvious reason why communities have gotten engaged and, you know, looked at that interface between balancing those values.
When you have 17 guests next door for one night, and then there's a new, you know, 16 the next night, it could be, yeah, do they care what the noise level has to be? They're there for one night.
Yeah, and I think it's really, you know, it's interesting to think about the ways that government might engage with that. So I owned a place next to a short-term rental, and in 2 years I called the owners once, you know, that whatever they were doing was causing, you know, the renters of that property to be respectful. Never had any problem with it, you know, but I know certainly that that's not the case every time.
Yeah, I have the opposite issue. I have a short-term rental next door to me that is very, very noisy, and I have, you know, there have been a number of nights at 10 o'clock. I've called the owner, and then if they were not responsive, I called the cops.
Yeah, it seems like one interesting thing for us, too, is that we could regulate them differently than a lot of other jurisdictions, because we have resort communities where they've historically been. We have unincorporated communities, which are mixed, and then we have rural residential areas that have varying sizes. So there's a lot of approaches that would be, if the board is interested in considering this, that Deschutes County may not be as, you know, well, I can't imagine it being a one-size-fits-all. It would be a very nuanced approach should the board choose to ask staff to even begin the process to consider what an approach might look like, and then it's a significant community engagement, et cetera. So it's an interesting issue here for sure. Has been for a long time.
Tremendous community engagement. I think that's really important because
Yep.
the unintended consequences
Yeah.
on all
I
sides.
think we will have significant community engagement, because, I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I support proceeding, you know, starting with, you know, survey and discussion, and then putting, you know, a plan together, whatever that looks like, you know, and I'm sure it's not going to be a quick process, but it'll be a very engaging process.
Yeah,
So that's amazing that, yeah, we're kind of standing by on that 6 months or a year ago, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we do need to talk about this.
yeah, definitely glad. Appreciate the direction. Any other thoughts about any of the other matters, or those seem like the appropriate ones to move forward? And any concerns or questions?
The dark skies, can I personally say that my neighbor saw 2 wolves in her driveway? And I always, now when I walk from my house to my barn at night, I always take my flashlights, and, you know, it gives you a different feel for how you should be out in the wild when they were right down the road.
Yeah, definitely. I think I mean, the reason, just as we were discussing, the reason why you enter into these spaces at all is because there's competing values, and people have different needs and different circumstances, and you want to accommodate all of those. certainly, we've talked previously about agricultural needs for lighting, and it'll be important that we don't affect people's their economic activity or their safety as, that we enter into this. And so I think that's why getting a broad stakeholder group together and making sure that we have good representation for a variety of communities who can express their concerns will be really important at the outset.
I know my neighbors have to bale their hay in the middle of, late at night. It doesn't happen that often, but that's really ideal for baling. So, yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't want to do that in the dark.
So, as I say, I'm supportive of proceeding with all four. Looks like two of them could be very engaging topics, but this is what we do here in Deschutes County. Another topic just to put out there, and put it in the queue, solar setbacks. I was just explained a situation, I think it was a Black Butte Ranch, somebody building a shop, and it was the competing values of, a large tree, which is naturally shading the neighbor's property, and building a building, which is going to shade the neighbor's property. And on the ground, it kind of didn't feel right sometimes when you have to drop a big tree that is the big historical tree to move your building over a little bit for the solar setback. So I don't know how often that happens, but it was explained to me recently. So
It's a complicated piece of code.
Yeah.
We adopted, back in the early 90s, the city of Ashland's code, with the notion that, especially on larger properties, it'd be nice if you didn't build your giant house right up at the property line in the way that casts your neighbor into darkness. That seems like a pretty easy one. Back it up about 10 feet. Maybe that's not exactly the best views,
but the scenario is a large ponderosa that's naturally shading already, so then total competing value.
exactly to your point, as you get on smaller lots, as you get onto treed lots, and the fact that, especially in December when those prime solar heating hours where you're getting the most benefit of sun, the sun's coming in at a very low degree, so even immature vegetation can completely,
Yeah.
shadow out a house regardless of the construction on the property to the north. Our code doesn't deal with that in a very nuanced way.
Yeah, so as I say, I'm just handing that off because it was a conversation I had recently. So
Yeah, appreciate that.
it's not
That's something-
specifically a priority, but let's put it in the queue.
Yeah, no, I've got that flagged, and it's something, it's my 17 years as a current planner, I had a lot of discussions about the solar code and how to balance those values of providing the northern neighbor energy with trying to preserve valuable trees, or not move a house for, in your case, for what apparently is no benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I'd just like to pull it up to the 90,000 foot level and say that I'm glad we're able to take on these four projects at this point. I would also say that there's a really long list of long range planning projects in this packet item that we're not getting to very quickly, and I don't blame CDD for that. I would say that our methodology for funding and budgeting for long range planning is problematic. The fact that so many of these long range planning activities essentially depend on application permit fees to fund the staff capacity to work on them, when many of these long-range planning activities will never result in, that have no relationship to permit activity, doesn't make any sense to me. These long-range planning activities are intended to maintain a quality environment for the people and the wildlife, fish and wildlife of Deschutes County. They're intended to preserve public health and public safety. They're intended to address quality of life concerns. These are things that I believe we should be paying for out of the general fund rather than paying for with short-term development application fee revenue. And if we did pay for those things for long-range planning out of appropriate fund sources, we may actually be able to reduce the fees that we're charging people for their development application permits. So This is just a pitch argument proposal that when we come to budgeting, our budgeting cycle in the coming year, we take a different approach. And I would be interested in seeing us put at least a few $100,000 of general fund into CDD, not on a one-time basis for the comp plan, but as kind of as a core capacity building funding that can support the long-range planning that our community needs.
Well, we've been through this year after year, and as the cycles go up and down, there are opportunities to invest in long-term planning if and when the development slows down. So we do have a history of doing that. I don't know that I'd be supportive of scheduling it all at all times. There's just kind of a activities level that goes up and down over time, and we've been through this. And Nick is. As a previous community development director, understands that big picture too. So when there's need, let's have that discussion. I don't really support just scheduling it in all the time.
There are things on our long-range planning list that have been on that list for years. There's been need.
Well, and
There's been need. You've just been ignoring it.
You can advocate for any one thing, and we can have that discussion here. I'm saying that. That's
I
fine.
will advocate for specific things. I have been advocating for specific things like the wildlife inventory that we have postponed for a year. And I'm saying that structurally we are not set up right to get the long-range planning done that we need to be getting done to serve the interests of the people of Deschutes County.
The one thing I do note on the non-initiated is the Bend Airport. Now, I know that we got the funding through Connect Oregon for the tower, and so I'm just wondering, it says minor to moderate. Well, if that funding was about $5 million plus, and so I'm thinking that probably will be happening at some point in time, just to make you aware of that.
Well, that coordination's good to know.
Okay.
We were in a holding pattern.
That funding was allocated by Connect Oregon. I do believe that passed.
Mm-hmm.
And the FAA actually has to pick up the tower, the traffic controllers, which is good.
Okay. No,
So that did happen this May 12th, actually. So,
yeah, thank you for that. And to the commissioner's discussion is that, we're happy to work along with the resources that are allocated to us. It may be, to the extent you said, hey, let's do a surge and, have a year or two where we try to clear out some backlog. We would know what to do with those resources. Ongoing resources, we would know what to do with those as well. I think there's some projects that just are long. I want to point to, for example, what's allowed in a residential accessory building. It's something that sort of has a long grinding effect on both, planning and the community as we try to interact on that. There's never anybody one day who's going to show up pounding their fist about that issue in front of you. And so other things continually move ahead of it. But the cumulative detriment of not jumping into that is, if you were to pile up all the gears that have been ground down over the years because of that, it's significant. So there's some things that are less attractive or less interesting that get kind of perpetually downgraded. So that's something that certainly the planning division's interested in seeing some of those fixes. And as we come back to you in the future work plans, we can talk a little bit about what some of those might be.
well, I think the classic one, since I was in office, was the fact that we updated parking document, hard copy document from 1993. I believe it was in 2020 for the neighborhood around Smith Rock. So that definitely had been sitting out there for quite a while. But it looks like a lot of our ongoing projects, such as the Redmond wastewater, that's right there. It's on the ongoing, and that's, love to see that. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Any other?
Yeah, so one other item, section 36 is our square mile of 5, 10, and 20 acre forest zone parcels. I was able to go to the LCDC meeting, and it was acknowledged by the DLCD staff, trying to get all the acronyms right, DLCD staff, that, oh yeah, that we should tie that up. It was, is kind of the statement that was made. So I did have a call back from Mr. Jennings yesterday. We spoke about it a little bit. And what I saw is that, there's about 5 ways that he could go on this, so it wasn't real clear about what the path is. So just acknowledging that we've got our state agency engaged on this topic. And I will, follow up periodically to make sure that it's moving forward. But, I don't know how much of a long-range planning project or a specific project that is, but it's a topic. It's a topic I want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, certainly one that the first week I was in the building, I remember somebody said, hey, it's called Section 36.
Yeah.
And at least that's how we know it. And it's unusual in that you see a residential community that's popped up in a forest area, and there's of course a variety of concerns with development opportunities as well as fire safety out there, certainly over the years.
And it's just a lotting pattern, and this is the discussion that was had at the LCDC meeting. Grant County Planning Director said, yeah, we have people come in and they ask about what's possible on their land, and then they learn about this book of regulations. They come in a year later, ask about it after they thought about it, and then they just stop coming in. And then
And they do it.
They do it, exactly.
they're
So
done.
that was funny that she said that, because that's kind of our scenario. But we also, we have a residence area that did burn. It was a fire, forest fire came through, burned property, unpermitted structures, property owner. They just stopped me last week on the side of the road and said, what are you going to do about this? Now what do I do? And the same answer, well, it's a forested zone and template dwelling and land use lawyer, and then they're going to stop coming to us. I mean, so if we want to see that happen, But yeah, it's just a topic, that's all I'm saying.
Certainly an area of ongoing concern.
Yep.
I would say that when we had this discussion year and a half ago even, I suggested a number of things that we could do to streamline and facilitate the process for some of the owners of parcels in those legacy rural residential areas that we believe were mismapped, to get them the rezones and classifications that they need. And I would just say again that there are investments we could make to ease the burden and make the process easier for those landowners. And I think that would be it. That's actually that's a worthy
From my experience.
rezone and reclassification effort for us to support.
And so from my experience, we start some of these conversations. We had a effort called a non-prime resource land, and it was stopped hard, and we were threatened legally by the Thousand Friends of Oregon.
And we were going to prison.
So, yeah, so, you're offering this bright path, it's easy, let's just go do it.
No, I'm
It's
not
been
saying- I'm
tried,
not saying
and
that
it's been
no.
stopped. So I'm just saying, there's history on these topics.
You have the one pathway that you're fixated on. I'm talking about the pathway that already exists that we could make easier for some of our residents and landowners in Deschutes County. It's things as simple as, like, you need a soil survey. Let's figure out how to get you a pooled soil survey so that it costs less per person. Or, heck, I mean, like,
But remember, that's a
value-
backwards logic from my point of view. For government to go pay for a soil survey to fit into government's rules for a private property owner is not logical to me. That's not a scenario that I support. I mean, that's silly. We're going to help property owners follow the government
you seem
rules.
very, very
Down this
happy.
path.
You seem very, very happy to approve comp plan amendment and rezone applications that make their way to us. So why not help some of the right people who want to do such applications get ready to do those?
That's not government.
That's using the existing pathways that are available.
Job. It's all good, yeah. So,
Yeah.
good conversation.
Thank you very much, Will.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm going to need to leave in a few moments. I do
Yes.
apologize. I'd like to share other item if we can between agenda items if possible.
Sure.
Thank you very much. So I was able to, Sunday, I drove down to Medford. I was able to see the Hope Village from the outside, though. So basically, I do apologize. I used the people's money to go on a little trip. It's going to be $100 plus mileage or whatever. and got to the front door and I couldn't get in. I contacted the director the day before. I texted her. She was notified through Bob Bohack that I was coming, and then, I had to kind of make the call because I was going to go to Medford and then Salem for AOC. So I got to the front gate, said hi to the gentleman there, so it wasn't quite a full tour, but I know what it looks like. I know where it is now from the outside. So, I'll have a conversation with that director. I did talk to the commissioner, Colleen Roberts from Jackson County, learned a little bit more about that operation. So I was able to get to Hope Village.
Did you get over to Medford Urban Campground #1 while you were there? That would have been a great rogue retreat.
Yeah, so I'm
facility
acknowledging
to-
it was less than what I expected, and I tried to fit it in. So it's just, that usually doesn't happen to me, but this happened this time. So as I say, the director never responded to me. I called, left a message, texted. Bob O'Hack contacted her. I figured, okay, she knows I'm coming, and there's just and I don't know what the scenario was.
Contacted them the day before?
Oh, yeah, no, the week before. So, yeah, it was just a hard time getting contact, so.
Well, there were a lot of people from Grants Pass that were at the panel, the 4123
Yeah,
panel
so
that I did.
it was a little bit of a doomed trip, but as I say, I got there and I saw it from the outside. And I did speak to the person.
In Medford. Couldn't have been totally doomed.
Well, so then I was able to make my way to the Association of Oregon Counties Board meeting. So that was at the Salem Fairgrounds on Monday at 1 o'clock. And it was, real good meeting. And this is kind of setting up for our November annual meeting. So there's a budget proposal of 7.5% coming to us, a budget, increase of dues. So that's going to be for discussion. The concept of a balanced budget, because remember, we've been doing a lot of work. This is AOC, our advocacy organization, balanced budget, because there was it was costing more every year than we were paying in dues, and we hadn't really right-sized the organization. So the request is to have it structured so we're not eating into reserves. One of the other concepts, remember, we sold out of the local government center. We, AOC, sold out of the local government center. Remember, we were on the 3rd floor there, and bought the building across the street. I don't know what was there before, but that was a big financial transaction that's coming to an end. There was more revenue associated with that exit than even the cost of the building. So they put like $250,000 into reserves. But there's also some, infrastructure, internet, furniture upgrades they're doing. So AOC will be an independent building right across the street from the local government center. We're going to be able to use that same parking lot. So once you have because we used to do this, you'd have just a piece of paper for your dashboard. We'll be able to park at the local government center when we go during the legislative session. This all matters because of the next February session coming up. We want to be, vibrant player at the table, next February when we get there. So, Derek DeGroot will be the president next year. So the steering committees and co-chairs and different discussions. There's also the leadership dinner is going to happen in December at the Oregon Business Plan. Remember, so I don't know if you've been to that before. It's a real opportunity to go to a hosted dinner with legislators and business owners after the Oregon Business Plan in December. So I've been at that before. So look out for that as commissioner. If there's an opportunity to join that dinner, it's a real opportunity. I'm not sure if all commissioners will be invited. I know it was district chairs, AOC leadership, so maybe committee chairs too. So that's a good one.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just looking at my notes. Yep.
Thank you very much. All right, so let's now go
So I'm going to exit now. Thank you.
to our item regarding Four Peaks.
So then I won't return. There won't be an extended
Right.
item after lunch or anything.
I don't think so.
There's executive sessions after lunch, right?
We have two executive sessions scheduled after lunch for.
Okay, so
Do we have to do them after lunch?
Uh,
What time can you come back?
Yeah, I mean, I could be here, it'd probably be like 11:45 or something.
Okay.
The personnel matter that we're going to do, I think it's pretty appropriate
Yeah,
for all
we're
three
good.
of us to be here.
11:45, or do you want to do it at 1 o'clock?
I prefer to do it earlier.
Okay, so I'll come right back, okay.
Okay,
I'll
thank
be
you.
back at 11:45.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. Thank you.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Rachel Vickers, and I'm an Associate Planner with the county. For today's work session, we will be discussing the Four Peaks Outdoor Mass Gathering Permit for their June 2023 event. This event will include overnight camping, parking, food, and drink for an estimated 1,000 people, and the proposed location is at 21805 Knott Road in Bend. Setup is scheduled to begin June 17th and tear down to be fully completed June 26th, with the event taking place June 22nd through June 25th. This will total to a 4-day event with 5 days of setup and a one-day teardown. The applicant is requesting a waiver from the ambulance being on site, which the board has the ability to grant per DCC 8.16.150B. Staff is prepared to send notice of public hearing for Wednesday, November 2nd. And at this time, staff is available for questions.
Well, I remember we had a lot of community input on this event in the past, before COVID, when it was happening. And why would we in today's world want to grant an ambulance waiver?
Because the fire station is 2 miles away.
Yeah, so we do have a letter uploaded to the record from Drew Norris, who is at the Bend Fire Station 303, which is 2 miles away. The code offers the board the ability to grant that waiver, but that can be up for discussion with the board members at the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, the fire station is 2 miles away, so it's not. The response time is going to be pretty fast if anything happens.
Okay, I was just told by a city council person from Eugene that they have bodies dropping in the street from drug issues. So he's, who knows what it's going to be like next June if the fentanyl continues to be impactful in our community. So that's my question.
Okay.
So we have a public hearing then set up for what, November 2nd?
November 2nd, tentatively.
Okay. All right.
I guess to follow that line of thought, it would be great to have some historic information on this festival from prior years. Have there been any instances of needing an ambulance?
Okay.
At past events. Some of the other things that I wanted to know about from the past were, that these permits come with conditions. Have there been any concerns with non-compliance with permit provisions in the past? And have there been any complaints from? I know that this festival has been going on for a long time, and not for that long at this site, but from this site, have there been any complaints from nearby landowners? And if there are not issues with past compliance with permit conditions, past complaints from nearby landowners, emergency medical situations that would require an ambulance, then and we don't hear anything from people at the hearing that are concerns, then I don't see any reasons to deny this permit.
Okay.
I think we have to have the public hearing.
Yeah, we have to have the public hearing. I said that.
I will reach out to the applicant and try and gather that information.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I would assume that some of the, complaints and the compliance with permit conditions, we would have records of that, right, if there had been violations, so.
Yeah, so our county code does require a crowd control and security plan. So this provides one crowd control person per 100 people in attendance. They've stated that they will have a minimum of 5 licensed personnel on duty with additional on-call depending on crowd levels.
Okay. Great. Yeah, those are some of the things that I want to know.
Okay.
Okay,
Any other questions?
no?
No.
I think we should be good then. So it would be posted, and November 2nd is a couple of weeks away.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great.
One other question about the way that this kind of a hearing works. So the applicant will have a chance to make some kind of presentation, and then is it, how long do they get to make their presentation? Kind of what do the comments during the public hearing look like? And then does the applicant have the opportunity to make a final statement or something like that at the end, or?
Yeah, so the hearing will start off, I'll go ahead and give my staff report, and then the applicant will give their presentation. And then I will be managing the public record between now and when the public notice goes out to upload comments that we submit to the record. And it is a public hearing, so people can come and submit comments in person or online, or it will be a hybrid hearing, so it will be over Zoom. And then the applicant will be afforded the opportunity for rebuttal.
Okay, great. Thanks for the rundown.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us this morning. Oh, I do have one question. It said 1,000 here. Is that limited, or could that be more than 1,000? Can they sell more tickets than 1,000?
So they've said 1,000 people, and this includes staff and volunteers. Outdoor mass gathering permit is good for up to 2,999, but they are just requesting 1,000.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for clarifying. Okay, so now we have item number 10.
I understand that Lee Randall is on his way. He should be here momentarily.
We're out of schedule.
Okay,
There he is, coming in the back door now.
Okay. Thank you, Lee. You're up.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Lee Randall, Facilities Director. So I'm happy to be here this morning to provide an update on our downtown campus parking study and project. And I just wanted to provide some background information, talk a little bit about the current study and the surveys that are underway, and then about where we go from here when we have more information for the board to consider. So as we've talked about before, in 2019, in preparation for the courthouse expansion, we conducted an internal study and then had an architectural firm provide an analysis of our existing parking based on a campus-wide assessment. At that time, we used the prescriptive Bend development code as a guide. And based on that analysis, we needed approximately 48 additional parking spaces to meet the prescriptive code requirements for the courthouse expansion plan at the time. Our study and analysis also showed that based on that pre-pandemic use, that on any given day we needed closer to 85 parking spaces in order to account for growth and overflow. Fast forwarding, we had presented some options to the board. And then last spring, given changes since the pandemic and remote work and other uses, we thought it would be a prudent move to include a new parking analysis and study as part of our downtown parking project. So that is currently underway. We have an engineering firm and a traffic engineer as well, have combined forces. This week, they'll be doing surveys of actual use. They've already conducted a significant amount of work in providing an inventory of our current parking and an analysis of how that relates to the city of Bend code and what our options are. We do have a total of 654, excuse me, spaces that can be counted as part of the county. About 550 of those, plus or minus, are in parking lots, and the rest are adjacent city street parking that is typically per code allowed to be part of our counts. The work that the firm is currently doing includes also employee and tenant surveys. Those surveys went out this week, and happy to say that we've gotten a really positive response and involvement so far. I didn't check this morning to see what our numbers are, but we had close to a 10% response rate in the first half hour or so from employees. And then there's a separate survey that a representative from each department will be responding to. And on the employee side, the survey specifically addresses how folks get to work, whether that is walking, biking, all the various modes, or utilizing transit opportunities. And looking for that as a reference, but so that one's fairly quick, and we're really excited about the response that we've gotten. And I encourage any of the tenants in Deschutes County buildings or staff to go ahead and respond to that survey. That information will be very helpful. And then the survey that's going to a representative from each department and other groups, including the State Department of Human Services, state courts, all the folks that are part of our downtown campus. That survey includes information on numbers of fleet vehicles, numbers of employees, the ratio of employees that may work remotely versus those who are in the office, how often folks are in the office, information related to visits by members of the public or other partners. So we're really trying to capture through surveys, information that's self-reported from the groups that use our campus, and then along with that, the engineering firm will be doing real-time counts of actual use. They'll be utilizing drones for that work this week, and we'll be providing that information as feedback. Ultimately, where we're headed and the information that we want to provide to the board as a result of this work is an evaluation of whether or not we could utilize another portion of current City Bend code called a Transportation and Parking Demand Management Plan. And essentially, as we understand it, that plan would allow the county to utilize all the various levers that are available to us to help manage parking and demand, things like being close to transit, encouraging rideshare and other modes of transportation, all of those things that we think can help remote work, that can help take the burden off of our parking capacity. The group will also be studying, based on the information that we have available, what the potential impact of a courthouse expansion is and the needed use. And then finally, looking at not only what options and opportunities are available to us through the code, but also evaluating what in reality are our projected needs in order to provide parking for folks who need to access public buildings and access the services that county departments provide. So that information we plan to bring back to the commissioners in early November. They'll be wrapping up the study at the end of October, and we'll have preliminary information available, and then of course it'll take us a week or two to put that together and be able to present it to you all. So that's kind of in a nutshell the update information that I wanted to provide in terms of the work that's been going on this past summer and that we're preparing currently to be able to provide to you. We also know that we have certain events such as election and tax season that are that really significantly affect our traffic and our parking. And so we want to make sure that we're capturing those needs as well as part of the study. And so, of course, we won't be able to fully capture that information prior to reporting back to you, but that will also be information that we want to capture and include ultimately in the final final set of data and report that we provide for your consideration. So that's the sum of what I had to share this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, Lee, I was just wondering, what is your department's FTA missing at this moment? How are you guys set up currently?
So we've been working hard to bring folks in to help us out. We have some recent new hires in our maintenance specialist 2 position, where we'd had a couple vacancies. So we have one person who started a few weeks ago and another person who will be starting November 1st. On the custodial side, we have some final candidates that we're reviewing for that vacancy. And so we had a total of 3 vacancies on our operations and maintenance team group. And then on our project management team, as you know, we still have a vacancy in our project manager. I'm currently working with HR to look at how we might be better served by reevaluating the job description for that particular position and perhaps the title. We've gathered all the information, and I'll be circling back with HR to evaluate that in the next week or so. And then on our project coordinator.
Is that the position that Dan held?
Yes, it is.
That's what I was afraid
Yep.
of.
And so
Isn't that really like one of your right-hand people?
it is. Yep.
You need that person.
Yes. I get to relate to a lot of projects and a lot of people currently without having that position filled. So it's.
How long has that position been empty?
He was here through early January last year, and so it's a challenging position to fill. It's somewhat of a unique position to the county, and so but I do feel that in the relaunch, so to speak, that we're working on, I think we're going to come up with a position that can compete in the marketplace and where we can bring someone in that has a full range of skills and be able to work very closely with us on the projects that we have. The last position is our project coordinator, and we've been interviewing actually this week for that position and hope to have some finalists next week to move forward with. So that's kind of our hiring update. We're facing the same challenges that folks are in the private sector as well as across the county.
Yeah, I'd actually connect the workforce considerations with the parking study, parking analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're surveying current employees to get a feel for their essentially their commute behaviors and who needs to come and see them to be served and all of those kinds of considerations. One of the concerns that I have is that we are having severe hiring challenges for the county, as you just recounted for your own department. And housing is not getting any more affordable within walking or biking distance of the county building. And I would be concerned that as some of the we could get an overestimate of people's abilities to commute to work without a car from surveying current employees that won't be valid in a couple of years when lots of people retire and when we need to hire new people and they can only afford to live in Lapine or Redmond or Prineville or someplace like that, and which makes it very difficult to get to work without a car. So are you building in some cushion or some safety factors into your parking needs estimates?
There's a couple approaches that we're taking and we'll plan to take as we put together the final data. One is to plan for future capacity, and project what that might be. So that would involve, one of the questions that we're asking departments to respond on is what their expected future growth is.
Right.
And so that, and we fully expect that, not fully expect. One possible outcome might be that we need to look at both capacity and management practices, and a combination of the two. Or it could be planning for capacity as a subsequent project to the courthouse expansion. So we could, from the data that we gather, put that information together and work with the Board of Commissioners to reach some conclusions about what parking is going to look like in 3 to 5 years. And then begin working on capacity issues in correlation with, or in combination with, commute options. The second part is, as we gather that current information, we're able to compare the FTE positions that are assigned to the downtown campus with actual numbers of employees. So what's that vacancy rate for departments that are on the downtown campus? One option may be to make some assumptions that as those, we could make assumptions on two parts. One, we could assume that as those are filled, likely those folks would need to live out of the area and commute by car. And we could run some numbers that account for those as vehicle trips to the downtown campus. We could also, as a comparison, then make assumptions based on the cross-section of the information we get back from employees. So for instance, we could say, one, let's assume that new employees are likely going to drive. What does that look like? Secondly, let's assume that the new employees will match the current mix of commute options that employees take advantage of, and see what those numbers look like, so that we could provide a variety of scenarios for that the commission could evaluate.
Right. Yeah, and I just want to, Lee, I want to thank you for doing this very careful analysis to understand, what kind of parking needs and fleet needs we will have to serve an ever-growing community population with really critical services. I mean, when you were just talking about forecasting ahead, the first thing that came to mind was the 10 health services employees who are arriving really soon, who are going to help us prevent overdose deaths and get people plugged into treatment who desperately need it for substance use disorders. I mean, the services that are provided out of this campus are so critical to our community, and we cannot compromise those services, because we can't agree on how we're going to meet our parking needs on the downtown campus. So thank you for doing this very rigorous and careful analysis for us.
You're welcome.
Do any of our employees so far take buses?
Yes, and I know personally of many that do, and then we'll get a good snapshot of that in our survey responses as well. There's a specific question that relates specifically to public transit options in the survey. And basically the ways that the survey is set up is for each option, drive, walk, bike, transit, carpool, vanpool, off-site fleet vehicle, or remote work. So we have 7 categories, and then the responses are never, once per week, twice per week, 3 times per week, 4 times or more per week. And so it gives us a good cross-section of how folks are getting to work. But it does include transit. Yep.
Good. No. All right.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but when I fill out the survey, I'm going to report how much I'm biking to work. But me biking to work also is contingent upon there being a fleet vehicle here that's available for me to go to the meeting in Redmond I need to go to in the afternoon. So it's complicated.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes, of course.
I should have asked you this offline, Lee. I'm just curious, are we also engaging the city of Bend in our discussion? And the reason I ask is that, as you know, our employees utilize a lot of city streets, and we know that downtown is paid parking, the nearby residential neighborhoods now have limited parking or parking permits required. We have a new office building here at the corner of Hill and Kearney that is now competing for spaces. So I'm just curious, is there a part of the analysis, a discussion with the city of Bend to see what their plans are for any parking limitations in our downtown campus or not? Just so that, because often we don't factor that into what our parking counts are on our campus with our employees. Just curious about that.
Yeah, so we've been coordinating with the Community Development Department at the City of Bend on a few different levels. One related to the courthouse itself and what our options are directly around the courthouse. And then on parking in general, what our requirements might look like and what future code changes might be possibly on the horizon for the City of Bend. And then secondly, I'm really fortunate to get to communicate regularly with Tobias Marks, who's the City of Bend parking manager. And we think that one of the, some of the information that we'll have as a result of this study could inform options that we may have to work together with the city in ways that benefit the community, benefit folks that are coming for county services from outside of the City of Bend. And that probably could be done in a more cost-effective manner with us working together. So Tobias and I talk regularly, and we think that as we move forward, there's additional options we could explore and then present to the Board of Commissioners as well.
Do we offer like van pool parking? Like, let's say everybody in Redmond would meet at the fairgrounds and come down to Bend in a van pool. Is that something that we've put together?
Well, that would be a transportation demand management plan option, and I know at least a couple of department heads have been considering that for employees that, for example, live in LaPine and.
Right. I mean, I know how hard we fought just to get the buses to go from LaPine to Sun River, and then they, because they're still short of drivers apparently. But yeah, that route too. Van Pool, I know they're doing significant capital improvement projects in LaPine where people could park their cars safely and then get in a van pool and come up.
Yeah, so I'm not aware of a specific van pool, something specific to van pool that we've rolled out as a county, but that is, one of the clear options that can be identified as part of this plan.
I would hope that we could do something like that, really.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to make sense with the gas prices, and now they're going back up again. Oregon had one of the highest raises last week. This week it wasn't quite as bad, but yeah, our gas is way at the top of the nation. So you need to be respectful of people's transportation challenges.
Yeah, the other question I have for Lee is, just as we think about this going forward, is that we continue to engage the City of Bend as well on the other issues, such as housing in the downtown area that is affordable for more people, that would provide more options? Or do we coordinate with COIC on the Cascades East Transit, just with their bus services, particularly to employment areas? I really enjoy taking the bus, but the last service I can get to my house on the southwest side of the City of Bend is at 7:02. Well, if I have a night meeting, which can happen, or we have a meeting outside the region, I don't have that choice. And so my hope is that perhaps our study will be informative to our partner organizations as they think about planning for housing, planning for transit routes, planning for walking options and things of that nature, because we're all in this together, and we're not the only employer experiencing housing shortages, parking shortages, everything, and we want a vibrant downtown core and central city, and which is where our campus is. So,
yeah, but at the same time, we need to remember that, for things like public transit to work well, people need to live at certain densities along certain corridors, and we didn't build out this region with that intention, and so it's pretty hard to. I mean, there's a lot of people who are asking, well, why can't people just take the bus to the courthouse? And I have to say that for a lot of the people who we want to come serve jury duty, we would have to go back 60, 80 years and rebuild the region completely differently to have viable bus routes to serve people. You can't just slap that onto any old pattern of development and have it work. So we're working with we're working with the development with the pattern of development that we have. There's things that you can do to patch that, but it has to be very deliberate, and you need to be tolerant of things like density, which Commissioner DeBone is expressed so much distaste for.
Great. All right, so we should see you again then in what, a couple of weeks, I believe like November?
Early November.
Early
maybe
November.
3 weeks or so.
I mean,
Okay.
I know early November is going to be fairly tight with a lot of other things going on, but we'll do our best to get that information back to you.
yeah, I mean, since there are people who are interested in Worrell Park watching, maybe we could just say it very, very clearly that there will not be any decisions made about building additional parking until this parking analysis is completed. And if this parking analysis tells us that we do not have enough parking already to meet our needs with all of the kind of tools and approaches that have been described today. Is that accurate?
I believe so. I mean, that's the direction we've received from the board, and that is the way we need to head. What will come out of the study will be our best estimate about needed capacity in order to serve the public. And so once we have that number, we'll use that number to refine any plans that we currently have for adding capacity.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, oh my gosh, we've got to get Dan's position. That's really frightening that he's been gone since the 1st of January.
Yeah.
He was a real asset for, I know, your division.
And fortunately, our projects are moving forward, and we'll be providing updates on those various projects to you periodically as well. But
Okay.
we're making good progress on a lot of fronts. So,
Right. Thank you so much.
thank you.
So, let's see, do we have any other items?
I would just mention that yesterday I visited with the Deschutes Trails Coalition, and their request for proposals for the $600,000 of transient room tax revenue that we allocated to them for Trails Partnerships has closed on October 5th. They received 10 applications. If I'm getting this correctly, 2 for survey and designs of new trails, 4 new trail construction projects, and 4 major maintenance or rehab of existing trail systems, and totaling something in the range of over $800,000. So, they couldn't give me more details than that yesterday, but I was excited to hear that there was such good response to the solicitation.
Great, thank you for that update. All right. So, they'll just have to do a bit of cutting. Eric, did you?
Good morning, Board. For the record, Eric Kropp, Deputy County Administrator. The Board asked staff to draft a letter to Charlotte DeHate, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Lapine Community Health Center. She is retiring after 11 years as CEO. Staff provided a draft for the Board earlier this week, and we're happy to make any suggested changes the Board would like to see.
Yeah, I thank you so much for writing the letter, and the recognition and appreciation components of the letter. I think were great. The tone that we set out at the beginning, we might modify a little bit. My understanding is that Charlotte is not retiring right now voluntarily. She's be really excited to continue her work, but she has ill family members who need to be taken care of. So, like, maybe not so much congratulations as. But
We could thank her for her time and
Yeah.
wordsmith that.
yeah, the recognition and appreciation, and just yeah, I don't know how we would deal with the other component of it, but
We'll be happy to modify the beginning of that to reflect.
Thank
what
you.
Stated.
Yes, if I do remember, Sandra Day O'Connor had to step down from the Supreme Court because her husband, I believe, had Alzheimer's. And, you know, when you have a spouse that you're caring for, sometimes it takes precedence over what you're doing. But yes, she's been such an asset for the community, and her health care in La Pine is really, it's to be commended. So if you can just modify that a bit.
Be happy to.
Great.
yeah. But
Thank you for that letter.
Board is inclined to move approval with the
Yes.
changes outlined.
Appropriate changes.
Yes, thank you so much for drafting that letter. But do we need a motion?
It would help, yeah. Yes, please.
I move approval of a letter of appreciation and recognition to Charlotte DeHate upon her retirement, with modifications as discussed.
And I'll second it. Further discussion? Commissioner Chang?
Yes,
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Any other items at this moment? So, should we come back then as soon as,
We can. We do have a couple of executive session items related to real property that if you
okay,
commissioners would like to discuss now, otherwise we could just come back and discuss all of them later, whatever the board prefers.
maybe if we would do it all together, I guess? He said what, he could be back at 11:45?
Okay?
Does that work? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so we will recess then until 11:45 for our executive session. Thank you, Stephanie.